Early in this newscast, you heard from Jerry Allen, the Democratic candidate running for Oregon State Senator for District 2. Joining us now is Art Robinson, Republican candidate running for that particular position. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that you chose to be on the phone today while Jerry Allen was on Zoom. This was your choice, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody knows we're trying to be as fair as possible. So moving on.
Of course.
Moving on to the issues, tell us a little bit about why, after years of running for national office, you decided to focus on the state seat.
Well, there are many issues that really affect our district greatly. Taxes, prices, school quality, forest management, energy, all kinds of issues that affect our district. I spent my life in mathematics, physics, and chemistry, where the truth about the physical world is the important thing. Scientists shouldn't be running or telling us how to live, but truth should be. And what I've found in Salem is that politicians and special interests determine legislation rather than the truth, rather than truth. For example, we have great Social Security system, but they keep raising taxes and causing prices to rise, which takes the money away from our seniors and hurts them. We once had the best schools in the world. They were controlled by our communities, the teachers, and the parents. Now they're controlled by special interests and lobbyists in Salem, and their quality is markedly diminished, and it's hurt our children. We need to view that fact, see what's true, and go back to the system that worked. Or, and a last example of this, a simple one, they're now saying that they want to have cap and trade to raise taxes on our fuels in order to keep our cities from being flooded because of carbon dioxide. The truth is that in the 19th century, our ocean levels rose 6 inches. In the 20th century, they also rose 6 inches. There was no effect whatever from the phenomenon that we produced little CO2 in the 19th century and lots in the 20th. CO2 has nothing to do with ocean level, and it's been naturally rising at a rate of about a foot every 2 centuries, so does the problem. But what we see in Salem is these political debates without reference to truth. And I believe our community would be much better off if factual information were being debated more in Salem, and what is good to feather the nest of the politicians had a lower influence. And that's the main reason that I'd like to be there to help with this debate.
Well, Mr. Robinson, you did lay out some of the questions and concerns you have for the future. If the reality is you would like to change those things, those have to be paid for. If you want to improve schools, that takes a certain amount of money. If you want to eliminate other programs, how would you do that without increasing the taxes to pay for the improvements you just described?
Well, if you want to talk about the schools, you don't have to raise school taxes. At the present time, about 1/3 of our school taxes reaches the classroom and the teachers and pays for the rooms. Huge amounts of money is going to feather the nests of bureaucrats and non-educational people. We have some of the things, but fund good extracurricular activities. But at least half of our school taxes are not doing our students any good. We don't need higher school taxes. We need somebody to pay attention to the truth about what it takes to educate students. I taught students at Stanford, UC San Diego, Caltech, and our family has taught 100,000 K through 12 students, public and private students. I know about education, and I know we can provide great education with the money we're provided if we could get these politicos out of the way who are wasting half of our tax dollars.
Can you give me a specific instance how you would do that?
I would vote to return those schools to the parents, the teachers, and the communities, and get the politicians out of the business of telling what our students should be doing in the school. That the school system, under the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, is the responsibility of the legislature. The legislature can make those schools good or bad. And the question of how much money it takes to do this is a separate question. But when I see so much money being wasted, I doubt we need new taxes. That's just a political idea.
Mr. Robinson, also you mentioned a different view on our current climate situation. How would you then put that into practice in your legislation, and what do we need to change in the state of Oregon to protect our forests, protect our environment, the way you see the future unfolding?
Well, as far as the forests are concerned, we need forest management. In Josephine County, the government literally destroyed our entire lumber industry. That took 1,000 men of the woods out of our forests who managed them and cared for them and put out fires when we had them. So we're having worse and worse fires because they killed off private enterprise in our forests, and we're left with the government, which can't raise enough taxes to manage these forests. The forests need to be managed properly so we don't have mega fires. I know about this because my family had to spend its time fighting a fire that was almost about to engulf our farm in this last event. As far as the so we need to get the government out of it and let private enterprise back into our forests, and they would be managed properly. That's a simple solution. The problem is that in Salem, and as far as the global warming, as my opponent seems to be so concerned about, the fact of the matter is, as I just pointed out, one of their big points is oceans are rising. But they're not rising as a result of CO2. We have experimental truth. The truth is that they rose 6 inches in the 19th century and 6 inches in the 20th century. In the 19th century, we produced a small amount of CO2. In the 20th century, a lot. That proves that CO2 didn't cause an additional ocean rise. That's a fact. And yet, the claim that these oceans are going to rise and flood our cities because of CO2 emissions is being used to try to raise the cost of our fuel 50 cents. This is nonsense. So what you need to do as a senator is keep explaining these truths in the legislature instead of letting the decisions be made entirely by politicos.
Mr. Robinson, we appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. Republican candidate for Oregon State Senate, Seat 2. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity.